How you doing, brothers and sisters? God bless everybody. Sorry about the lighting. You know, it's early in the morning. It's like 1:48 in the morning. Anyway, I ain't gonna post this till later on. But on my last two posts, I put a part 1 and a part 2 of Adolf Harnack, History of Dogma, Volume 3. Okay, and I was sharing from page 51 to I don't know if it's 71. I'm gonna be honest, I've only read 9 pages of it. Okay, I'm gonna try to read more when I can here in a little bit, but that is amazing. Okay, he is basically, I don't know the words. He's not being biased. He's being truthful. Okay, he's being truthful. A true theologian. Okay, a lot of people are liars. Okay, man's a liar. You know, God be true, right? At the end of the day, in his writings, if you read those pages, and I've only read 9 of them, okay, he's given a perfect account of what the church believed. Okay, so the Monarchians, when it comes down to it, if you want to use the title oneness, they was oneness, but they was not modalist or modalism. Adolf Harnack is the first one to use the word modalism. Okay, and that's the 1900s. You can research when he's alive, born and died. It's all on there, probably online. He'll tell you when. Tertullian is the one that labeled the early believers before them Monarchians. Tertullian in them was a Montanist. Okay, so the Monarchians was hardcore monotheism, one God like the Jews. They held to one God. Okay, the hardcore monotheism. Okay, so at the end of the day, they held to the one sole God. Okay. So in those pages, that, like I said, that I met it so far, which is amazing, you know, and there is a difference between dynamic monarchianism and modalistic monarchianism, but I'm not going to get into that on this video. But at the end of the day, we're not modalist and we're not modalism, okay? But people love to label us that, you know. That's how you find out the early believers, because they use the word modalism, or you're a modalist and all that. That's how you find out the early believers. But in those pages, okay, you will see that noetus is praxis. That's the one that Tertullian wrote against. Okay, you will see, and that's the very first 9 pages. You will find out in those first 9 pages, okay, that the Monarchians was over the churches. They in Rome. If I say this right, Smyrna. They had schools in Rome and Smyrna, Asia Minor. They all bishops. So there was no Trinitarians over anything. Okay, the Monarchians, the oneness believers, was in control. Okay, what I mean by in control, like they had the true doctrine, the true faith. Okay, the Trinitarian doctrine was an invented process that they done. They worked on it for a while, basically, if you want to say. It wasn't fully developed till the 4th century. And if anybody tells you, oh, that's a lie, well, you know, go get your AI, go get your Google. It's all there. It's all there. Okay? 3rd, 4th century. But really the 4th century is finalized. So at the end of the day, why we got to add on to God's word, saying, oh, well, people didn't understand. Oh, so what God gave wasn't good enough. What the apostles taught wasn't good enough. I mean, it's crazy. But anyway, in the pages, you will see that they was the core belief, the core doctrine of Jesus Christ. They held solely to the one God, Jesus Christ the Father. That God himself manifested in flesh, not a second person. They never did teach that a second person came down. That's just crazy. That's blasphemy, okay? That's blasphemy. I'm telling you what, a lot of the churches today, they'd be rebuked by the apostles. Be rebuked for a lot of the false teachings that these people, that y'all teach in these churches, brothers and sisters. And I'm not hating on every church. I'm not saying nobody's perfect, okay? But, I mean, God's not gonna dwell in somebody and have him teach error. He's not gonna let somebody teach his sheep wrong, his flock wrong, right? It's not gonna happen. So not every church is teaching the truth, but like I said, I don't go to every church, so I can't say anything really. All the thing I can say is that not everybody's teaching the truth. You got even in those writings, okay, it even says that the Monarchians, they was the majority. The Trinitarians was the minority. So that means that the minority, or that means the less, they wasn't the true doctrine. So then you come nowadays, the Trinitarians are the majority, and the Monarchians, the oneness, are the minority. Okay, we're not the popular view no more. So what's the Bible say? And I'm paraphrasing. Few will find, right? Well, I forgot. I'm not gonna be able to word for word, but some people are on that path, that narrow path. Some only find that straight path, that narrow path to Jesus. Only a few. Everybody else is on a worldly walk, on a worldly way, right? And I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember the Bible verses word for word, but those writings of Brother Adolf Harnack, and he's a well-respected theologian, so you'll never see Trinitarians and anybody talk bad about him, but you won't see Trinitarians go to what I shared. Okay, you will not see them go to there, because at the end of the day, it proves that they was the one that was bishops, they was the one over the church, they was the one in Rome. So if you want to say the very first Catholics was oneness, the very first Catholics was monarchians. That's what they was. They was the ones over the church in Rome. They're the ones that had the schools. And because you had two, you had I think I might butcher his name wrong, but you got Hippolytus. If I said his name right, Hippolytus, and then you have Sabellius. Okay, which a lot of people say Sabellianism. Sabellian, eventually he was the one that was like the main head later on, after after Noetus and it passed away and everything. So he was over the schools, okay? And then you had Hippolytus, whatever his name is, he was Trinitarian over his own school and doctrine that they eventually made, right? So then you had Callistus. Callistus was the bishop, okay? But it even says in those in those pages, in the first 9 pages, it even says that Rome and all the church sided with the Monarchians. I mean, there's no getting past the true history, brothers and sisters. If you truly dig and you search, you will find the true history. But it even admits that the Trinitarians, I'm paraphrasing, in those writings in the first 9 pages, that they try to cover up the early believers. They try to destroy everything, because they wanted their doctrine to take over. It was man-made philosophy. So anybody today that sees God as 3 different persons, there's nothing in the Bible that says he's 3 different persons. There's only one. They use the word Elohim, and they'll say, look, it's plural. The only thing that makes it plural is the I am at the end of the word. At the beginning of the word in the Hebrew, it's singular. So, then you take theos in the Greek, in the New Testament, singular. You got distinctions, but spirit and flesh. It's all leading to the one true God, not multiple persons. There's only one person who is God. One being. One soul being. Excuse me. So, who's the one returning? Jesus Christ. There's only one God coming back and getting us. He's going to bring heaven down to earth. Where's the other 2? I mean, there's only one God's going to be with us for 1,000 years. Millennial reign's going to teach us. Who else is going to show up? Nobody. I mean, come on now. Come on. They'll say, and then they'll use John 1:1. They'll say the Son was face to face with the Father. Oh, so he was face to face with him. Okay. So the only physical fleshly body form that God took on was the Son, the fleshly body. That's what he took on. He came onto his own creation, right? But we're the heretics, right? Because we believe that his flesh was his body, and that God himself became a man. I mean, it says in the Old Testament, God comes as a man of war. Like I said before, let God be true and every man a liar, right? With their false doctrines. At the end of the day, God said he was alone. As I said in that last video I made, God said he's alone. Who are we going to believe? We're going to believe man or believe God? God says he's alone. There ain't nobody with him. You got 1st, 2nd Chronicles and 1st, 2nd King. I forgot the verses, but it says that his heavenly host, his angels, his cherubims on his right hand, left hand. There's no other person. If there was an eternal Son that the Trinitarians teach, which wasn't taught by the early church, where's that? And then you go to even in the East, you had Sabellianism, and then you had which basically like a branch from Monarchians. And at the end of the day, you got I'm gonna butcher the word. It's a big word. Patripachianism. But I probably said it wrong. They believe the Father was the one on the cross. God's a spirit. He was in that fleshly body, reconciling the world back to himself. 2 Corinthians 5:19. Okay, the Spirit's the one speaking. John 6:63. The Spirit is the one that's leading and guiding and doing everything. Okay, so the one true God is the one who came in the flesh, not another person. Okay, but if y'all get time, check out, truly check out, that book of Adolf Harnack, because I'm gonna eventually read all those pages. But I'm telling you what, it's so amazing, because it shows the true history, brothers and sisters. And a lot of people don't know that, because everybody's either brainwashed or they're not getting told the truth on everything. But God bless everybody. Jesus is Lord. And let me know what y'all get from all that, from the pages, because I'm gonna read the rest of them. But the history is amazing. Okay, but what I shared with y'all, brothers and sisters, people ain't gonna give y'all that. You know, at the end of the day, these books, I shared the back of it. These books was like $13 and something for the whole set, and back in that around the 1900s to 1800s or something. But it's expensive nowadays. I mean, I think when I bought these books, I think it was like I paid like $90-some, close to $100 for them. And it was like 6-7 volumes. So, I mean, buying the history is expensive, but I mean, once you get it, you know, the truth's there. But it's for if you truly want to know the history, you know what I mean. And what I'm sharing with y'all, brothers and sisters, that's not nothing fake. That's the truth right there. I mean, like I said, Adolf Harnack's a well-respected theologian. There's no going against what he wrote. I mean, it's 100% truth. So he wrote that the early believers was the monarchians. That was the true successors of the apostles, and that the Trinity was invented. And if you want to even go this far, Unitarians, which is Arians, they was before the Trinitarians. The Arians was before Trinitarians, because the monarchians kicked the Arians out because of their man-made philosophy, their blasphemy of saying that Jesus wasn't God, that he was only the Son, a different person, right? The Messiah, that he wasn't fully God. He wasn't the God at all. They say he was just a prophet, the Son of God. So the Arians was kicked out by the monarchians. These are facts. This is in history. And then you had the Trinitarians. So the monarchians and the Unitarians are way before the Trinitarians. Like, come on, man. But Jesus is Lord. God bless everybody, and check those pages out. Okay, Jesus is Lord.